have small group discussions on the topic of should AAUW membership be opened up to anyone who believes in our mission and wants to join us. We have facilitators to make sure that everyone has a chance to be heard. And then at the end, we'll have a summary so that we can share all common questions and all the answers, all the arguments for or against changing our bylaws. And where do we go from here? What needs to be done next? So let's see. Please use the chat box for questions and comments. And now I'm going to introduce our speaker for tonight. And we are very pleased to have with us from National AAUW Board, the Vice Chair, Melinda Gall. Melinda is also president of AAUW Texas, and she's a practicing employment law attorney in San Antonio. So without further ado, let's hear what Melinda has to share with us tonight. Thank you.
Hello, New Jersey. I'm so glad to be back with you. I visited a few years ago when I was on the board previously, so I'm glad to join you tonight. I've been a member of AAUW for more than 30 years, and to be honest, I never was very passionate about this issue. I didn't really think about the degree requirement that much. And I thought when we changed from a 4-year degree requirement to a 2-year degree requirement, that was a bit of a compromise, and I didn't really think about it much. But you know, things have changed. Trying to change my slide. There we go. We're looking now at eliminating this degree requirement because it really doesn't fit with our mission, our vision, and our values. As you see, it's not consistent with equity for all, and it's not consistent with advancing gender equity for women and girls. We've been doing a lot of these town halls, and we hear a lot of people say, but our mission and our focus is education. And that's not true. Our mission has never been just about getting a college degree. When I joined AAUW, one thing I remembered most about our mission was positive societal change. And I always thought that was very interesting because that's what we were striving for at that time with women and girls and what we were doing in AAUW. We've always been about advancing women. We've been about positive societal change, and we're about equity. So one question or one issue that comes up is, as our mission has changed and as things change, if we change this degree requirement, are we going to have to change our name? Well, we've never changed our name at any other time in our history when we've made changes. We've not been American for a long time. We have international fellowships and international members. We've not been an association for a while. We're actually the foundation now. We've not been women for a long time. We've allowed men. And really, when we changed from a 4-year degree to a 2-year degree, we're not university. We're colleges and anything equivalent to a 2-year degree. But honestly, how many times have you been to a presentation and had the person talk about us being college professors because they think we're university women? We've also heard during the town halls that there's a concern that changing the degree requirement will somehow devalue our degrees. And that's not true either, because we still remain one of the largest funders of women's graduate studies, and that shows our true commitment to education. In addition, one of our focus areas is education and will continue to be education. In the town halls, we've also heard, well, shouldn't we encourage women to have degrees by showing them that we have degrees, and to be part of our group, you need to have a degree? Well, how are we going to encourage them if they're not part of our organization? How are we going to reach these women if we don't let them in? But again, the reality of it, our average age is 70 in this organization. Many of the women who want to join our organization are already past the age that they'll get a degree. And AAUW, while it is about education, is about other things. It's about advancing equity. And so we want to build a team of everyone. We've also been asked, well, if we change our degree requirement, we're just like every other women's organization. But that's not true either, because AAUW is unique. Our research, our policy and our advocacy, our fellowships and grants, the programs we do, Nick Whistle, Start Smart, Work Smart, and our grassroots effort through 2-minute activists, that all shows that we're different from other organizations. We do the research, we do the advocacy, we educate the women, and through our legal advocacy fund, we fight for their rights. You can see from our trends that our supporters, which are non-members who make donations, participate in our advocacy, and use our webinars and trainings, that number continues to grow. But our branch membership and our national membership is declining. However, let me make this clear. Changing the degree requirement is not about increasing membership. That's never happened. When we added men, it didn't double our membership. When we changed from a 4-year degree to a 2-year degree, it didn't increase our membership. It's not about members. It's about living our mission and including those who believe in our mission to help us achieve equity for women and girls. Right now, we lose out on non-college educated people who are already finished with their careers and want to help us, like Lily Ledbetter. We lose out on people who do not need college degrees to be successful, like Ann Beeler of Auntie Anne's, Debbie Fields of Mrs. Fields, Mary Kay Ash, Oprah Winfrey, Rachel Ray. We lose people who have done several years of college but never got a degree. And we lose people who can't afford to go to college. Yes, people say it's easier now to get a college degree online, but it's not cheaper. And it's very expensive to make that move. This campaign has been a mirror to the face of AAUW. I've heard arguments from both sides, but I will advise you, the one thing I find most disturbing is when I hear members say, well, I don't want to associate with people who don't have degrees. And that really bothers me. And I'll close with this. My 2 best friends don't have degrees. Both grew up poor, unable to go to college. One joined the military and then had a career in AT&T. The other came up through the CIA and government work. Both are better read than I'll ever be. Both are extremely successful, and both are very prominent in San Antonio, serving on commissions and boards. Both are better women than I could ever hope to be, but they can't join AAUW. Thank you for listening to my advocacy for this important step for AAUW. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a lot of information there in a short time. So now we want to invite everybody to participate in the next portion. I didn't see, let me see if there's a question in the chat. I think there is. Can you see it, Laura?
I think it's more of a comment. I understand that men can be members. Why are they more qualified than other women? I assume that these men meet the education requirement. And that's from Mary Hager.
Yes, right, the men that have joined, anybody that has joined AAUW in the past has had to meet the education requirement. And there's one set of guidelines for joining AAUW, which is in our national bylaws. So now we're going to divide up into breakout rooms so that we can learn from each other. The purpose of a town hall is for us to share our viewpoints with each other, and hopefully that will help us convince everyone of why we think this change is important. So for tonight's discussion, this slide's a few rules. We want to give everybody a chance to talk, and then each breakout room will have a facilitator and help collect the ideas and summarize them to a short presentation. If there's some unique questions, concerns, comments, great arguments in favor of changing, or questions that you still need answers or that you think other members will need answered, please discuss them in your breakout room and have your facilitator bring them information back when we meet up again all together. And one last thing before we go into the breakout rooms, I'd like to introduce our facilitators for tonight. Discussions, hope you had enough time. And so now we're at the point where we'll see what we've learned. And so at this point, I would like you all to go back on mute. We'll mute all, and please remain muted until we ask you to unmute again. We will hear from the reports from the breakout rooms and try and answer any questions that came up. After that, we can have an open mic discussion where we can just share our thoughts after we stop recording. Okay. So, okay. So first, Sandy Bernard, you're first on my list. Would you like to report on what was shared in your breakout room? I guess you need to unmute.
Is that better?
That works better.
Okay, good. The majority in our breakout room supported the change. There was one person who said she really would like more information before she decided how she felt. The questions were, how are we going to stand out if we don't have the requirement? Are we going to survive without the change? Will there be changes in the fees? And that's a good one for Melinda. we had a few for Melinda. Has the board thought about how it will attract especially younger women? And what were the concerns and what were the fears of fear of change in the branches? And one of the things that we felt was our strongest asset were our grassroots connections, that we are one of the few organizations in this country that has so many units that when it comes to advocacy and we tell them who we are and how many supporters we have across the country, they listen. So that's my report.
Great, thank you. I think let's now, I'll ask Nancy Shoemaker to report from her group, and then we'll address, maybe Melinda would like to address some of these questions, because I think there might be some duplication. Nancy, can you please unmute?
Okay, so we had 7 people there were 5 of us in favor of the change. 1 was opposed and 1 was wanting more information. The objections to it were, again, the uniqueness. How are we going to distinguish ourselves from other similar organizations? But most of the comments were, on the, being able to increase diversity and inclusion, being able to invite women who work in fields where a degree is not required, but they're still facing the equity issues that many of us has faced over our careers, and they would be strong members if they were allowed to join us. There was a question about the name and whether it would need to change, and one comment was that this change is in tune with the times. I mean, one branch has had trouble even advertising their scholarships, which are limited to women, because the campuses don't want to have that gender barrier on any of the advertising they do on their scholarships. So it's opening up, and being a more inclusive is important. And the comment, one person was worried about changing the character of the organization, but as one of Sandy's group's questions, without very different outreach, our character or the kinds of people that show up at our branch meetings, they're not going to change overnight unless, and they're only going to change if we're doing the hard work of our outreach, to other groups, and actually doing that hard work of diversity and inclusion, equity and inclusion. So, and I hope I captured that, and thank you for allowing me to participate. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Diane Crawford next. Diane, how did your room's discussion go?
Okay, the majority were supportive, although there were a few that had concerns with rebranding. For instance, the word university within the name of our organization. And we need to reach out to single women who do not have college degrees, but we would want to embrace these women. But most are supportive, and there were just a few concerns about it. So that's just about the gist of it.
Okay, good. Thanks. Linda, you are next on our sequential list of facilitators.
Can you hear me okay?
If you can get a little closer, you're very quiet.
Okay, in our group, we had 4 that were very much for the change and 2 that were, I would say, on the fence. They're not totally against it. I think a lot of the similar concerns were raised, and a lot of the positive reasons were as well. But one that came up that was interesting for those that are on the fence is they really felt that they had joined AAUW for the intellectual companionship of like-minded women, and they're concerned that if we change this, that the group dynamics change as well. So otherwise, I think a good point for the positive arguments was about they're not interested about their own personal degrees, but promoting equity and using our education to advocate for equity for women. And that pretty much summed up, I think, what our room was. I hope I didn't shorten it too much, but that's what our room was discussing.
Great, thank you. Jackie McGinnis.
Hi. I would say that of the, so we have 1, 2, 3, or there were 5 of us in our group, and everyone was pretty much, they were on board with dropping the degree requirement. They did bring up the fact that their their members in their group were not as open. So there are many that are not as open to changing the degree requirement. One of that being that question is that we've worked hard for our degree requirements for our degrees, and and others did not. So you have that inequity, I guess, is what the personal belief would be, of those that did not want to give it up. You know what I mean? But we thought generally, like, so one of the ladies thought that basically we needed to change with the times. We needed to become more inclusive with the society. We needed to, in order, if we kept our the way it is right now, we are reflecting that inequity that we see in our society, and that we should be open-minded and to change with that, change the times. The other one is you need to be more inclusive because it's, a matter of survival. We would like our group to keep going forth. We want our group to be more available to women and to help women. But we just really need to be more inclusive in order for us to move forward. There was also a question about really what is the difference between other organizations. The example was used was NOW. So how is AAUW more are different than NOW? And so then the other point was that question was, is the criteria meaningful? So as we think about the things that we want our members to have, is that criteria of the degree requirement meaningful? In the end, if you're in an organization and you are achieving your mission or trying to attain your mission, does the degree make the difference? If everyone is coming on board and is participating and really trying to, accomplish the mission. So we really should be mission driven as opposed to personal accomplishment driven. And so I was just, as a side note of thinking of the name in terms of the name change, if we look at university being something of a learning institution, why would we need to change it? Because in the end, we are all lifelong learners. So why change it if it's the university for women? And I think that that's it. I think that I tried to capture everything. So hope I didn't leave anything out, ladies.
Great, thank you, Jackie. That's great. Edwina, how did your group go? Oh, you're still muted.
Our group went well. The majority in our group was in favor of open membership, with the strongest reason being inclusivity. There were some concerns about having college degree requirements, making the organization elitist. Some people are very traditional and they felt very comfortable with having a college degree requirement. However, what we all shared was that we have to change with the times. And changing with the times means being inclusive and being able to acquaint with everyone You don't have to have a college degree to acquaint with like minds. A lot of people join AAUW to meet new people. They don't join to meet new college degree people, was one of our discussions. So that's pretty much how we summarized our concerns. And my last thing is just to say, we must practice what we preach. Okay.
Great, thank you. Sally, how did, well, you're muted still, Sally. Oh,
Sorry about that.
start over.
It's all right?
I just said start over, okay.
Okay. We had, I think, 6 people on. And what's been covered by others was similarly talked about. For the most part, it was that it's time for a change, but they also are saying that their members need more information because some of them, they feel their members are not ready to change or need more answers. They talked about whether or not we would be relevant going forward without the change. And it was a well-balanced group out from the north of New Jersey already down to the south. It was brought up, I mentioned that only 12% of our membership voted the last time. And I think it might be helpful to know how many votes we would need to make this change if we're going to do that. Because I don't know if you're going to change people's thinking that have voted for the last 50 years in the same manner. But I think it's also important that those that do feel that a change has to happen, that not only do they bring themselves to the polls, but make sure some of the other people also, and that's a personal saying. Anyway, I'm hoping that this time is come for AUW to stop the bias and to allow anyone that comes in that believes in our mission and goals. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jenny Little. It's our last breakout room report.
Okay. I was brilliant, but Arlene took the minutes.
Ah.
There were 8 people in our group, and everybody in the group agreed that we should make the change. And one thing that came up was something that I heard when we listened to a national conference having to do with the name change. The YMCA, take a look. They're not all young. They're not all men. They're not all Christian. And yet people know who they are and what they do. So if we advertise what we do and for whom we do it, we don't see any reason to change the name. And there was one question: what will AAUW do if this fails? Well, what we've done before, try again. I think that's it.
There was also the comment that how many of us in that group, when we went to talk to a new member, hit that embarrassing question, are you a college graduate? And I just cringed to have to ask that.
Right, I agree.
Yes, yes.
And I would like to say something. If anyone's familiar with the NOW, National Organization for Women, do you know they have about 500,000 members, active members, or contributing members? How many members do we have? A small number. in comparison. And if you read, if you go on the Now site, online site, I mean, they're a feminist organization. They promote many of the same things that we do. As far as I know, they don't offer scholarships, but they advocate for reproductive rights, for economic justice, for ending violence against women, racial justice, LGBTQIA rights, and constitutional equality. So I think we all support many of those issues. And maybe our emphasis has been more on advancing women in education. But I think if we don't change, we're a dying institution.
Okay, thank you. I would like, please, we're still recording, so I would like to give Melinda an opportunity to answer some of the questions and concerns that came up tonight. And I'll take some executive privilege to share some of my responses as well. So for just a moment longer, please, we ask everyone a few moments to stay on mute, and then after that, we'll be happy after we stop recording to open up the floor. So first, thank you. Thank you to our facilitators. We really appreciate your taking your time tonight when you've already been convinced to help us make a change, make a case for this, so that hopefully we don't have to do this again. I heard some things, a lot of common things. One thing that comes up in different forms is that we like AAUW because we're like-minded women, we're all intelligent women, we can have good discussions, but you know, what will happen if we change our degree requirement? And people find AAUW by what we do, by what our meetings are, by what our programs are, by what our projects are, by the events that we host, by our scholarships. They don't find us in the social events. They don't find us by whatever. It's not that suddenly swarms of people with a different point of view are going to join our organization and take it over. So I think I understand people's concern, but I think that as long as we continue to concentrate on focus on our mission, concentrate our programs and projects, our fundraising events on things that include our mission, include empowering women, include social justice, that it's not a concern, that we'll meet interesting women and have great discussions, learn from each other, and we can only get better. So,
may I follow up on that, Karen?
You have the floor.
This is Melinda. First of all, I want to make a point. No matter what we do, AAUW is not going away. We have a $120 million foundation that gives fellowships and grants. So it's not going away in our lifetime and in the next lifetime either. It'll always be that. But let's talk about what makes AAUW different. What makes us different from now is our branches. We're quite a unique organization because many organizations that had branches and local groups have faded away because people don't join as much. So our branches do make a difference. And I guarantee you, people aren't going to be swarming to your branches to join that aren't like-minded, because much of what you do is social and they're not going to be there. Where the change is going to be is not in your branches. You probably won't see much. You'll see a member here or there you couldn't invite before. What we're going to see is the big team, the national members, the supporters who can now be members. Because really, we're still going to have a lot of people who aren't going to pay those dues just to be part of our organization. So I don't think you're going to see a huge change in your branches of people somehow being changed, you know, making it different. You're going to see the national organization being inclusive and people joining in that way. Now, somebody asked, does the board think about how to get younger members? For decade after decade after decade, that's what we've heard. And I'm sure every single one of you You're not going to get younger members in your branches unless you have something for the younger members. And if it's just going to lunch and hearing a speaker, they're still not going to join, even if they don't have a degree. So just remember what attracts them, causes. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to attract students and younger members at a national level, because they're not going to join our branches. When they walk in and see us, look at the screen, ladies. They're not going to come and join our branches, but they might join our mission and our cause and be part of us that way. Karen, oh yeah.
Thank you. Let's see. So I think that addressed, well, also, Melinda, maybe you would address the rebranding, because I know we've emphasized tonight that we don't have to change our name, but is National thinking about it in the future? Not in the foreseeable future.
No, I mean, we didn't change it when we would have changed it to be AAU, American Association of University People. We would have changed, couldn't, because that would have been university professors, and they have an organization, AAUP. So no, we're AAUW, just like it's NAACP, just like it's USA, I mean, not USA, AARP. Hey, I'm not retired, but I'm a member of AARP. Most people don't even know what the R stands for. We're branded AAUW. That's what we're going to stay. That's what we're going to be.
Great, thanks. So let me, just before we go to the open mic, let me share here. The next steps after tonight's meeting, we hope that everybody will go back, talk to other people you know who might be on the fence. And when the voting opens up from national, remember there's one member, one vote. And every AAUW member, whether you're a branch member, a virtual branch member, or only national member, we all get one vote each. And that determines the membership requirement for everybody. Branches don't have separate membership requirements. All the affiliates have the same requirements. So we hope that you'll support allowing our organization to admit anyone who supports our mission. We really feel it's important. And as we said, even if we don't expect your branch to change in its operations or whatever, we hope that you'll help the rest of the organization move into the future. And as several of the conversation groups pointed out, that we need to change with the times. And I'm very proud that the national organization has, in their proposed public policy priorities for the coming 2 years, have really elevated the social justice and equity for all part of our public policy priorities. So watch for your ballots in the email. You'll have a voting code. And thanks again to our facilitators and Melinda Gall, especially Nancy Shoemaker and Sandy Bernard for joining New Jersey this evening. And now if we can stop recording.